It has been discussed that managing federal property has been on GAO's high-risk list for more than 2 decades. Currently, GAO has almost 60 recommendations that the administration could fully implement, but decided to ignore. And I'm going to veer off for 2 seconds because all I kept hearing was fire. Fire, fire, fire is what I heard. And as I heard fire, it seems like we are talking about an administration that has been hell-bent on firing government workers. They are hell-bent on engaging in fire sales of our government buildings. And while we are at it, they are lighting the Social Security on fire, Medicaid on fire, Medicare on fire, 401ks on fire, Department of Education on fire. And instead, what we need to light on fire are Trump's tariffs. As members of Congress, we do have congressional oversight to the extent that we actually travel the world. We go, we sit down with world leaders, we talk to them about the programs that we have, we talk to them about trade. We also have an opportunity to go and visit and talk and see exactly how our dollars are being spent. And if you are a good member of Congress, you do that. And I do want to tell you about an experience in Africa, but I got to get through these other remarks. So if I have a chance, I'm going to tell you why I believe in this with my whole heart. We all know that my Republican colleagues have a weird fetish with dictators or wannabe dictators. Free speech is not about whatever it is that y'all want somebody to say. And the idea that you want to shut down everybody that is not Fox News is bull. We need to stop playing because that's what y'all are doing in here. You don't want to hear the opinions of anybody else. And the Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting or establishing of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the
gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Congressional Republicans, again, as it's been stated, they don't care about government efficiency no more than they care about government services and programs that constituents rely on. And just like Elon is hiding from this committee, Republicans are now hiding from their constituents. Under the current Republican budget proposal, 166,000 people in the chairman's district could lose their Medicaid benefits, including more than 70,000 children. The same for the chairwoman of the DOJ subcommittee. Under the current budget proposal, 120,000 people in her district could lose Medicaid benefits, including 75,000 children. This is what efficiency looks like to Republicans, selling out their own constituents to pass tax cuts for their billionaire donors and friends. And rather than taking GAO's recommendations and discussing how Congress can help make federal employees and agencies more efficient, effective, and supported, they're firing probationary federal employees, which again, in my opinion, has led to planes actually falling out of the sky. But nevertheless, which is crazy because no one has been more unproductive than the Republicans on the Oversight Committee. It should not be surprising that the president is doing everything possible to make it more difficult for the media to hold him accountable and for the public to be informed about his reckless and illegal behavior. Yet here we are. The Republicans have actually organized this goofy hearing to try to convince the American people that PBS and NPR are, quote, domestic terrorists or domestic threats, my apologies, not the incompetent, unqualified Secretary of Defense who's texting war plans to journalists. But it's y'all, PBS and NPR, the American people are supposed to be worried about. You can't make this up. It's as stupid as it sounds. The American people should be worried about the president threatening to investigate NBC for treason for reporting on his felony convictions, or arresting reporters and stripping networks of their licenses for not saying nice things about him or not using Gulf of America. The Republicans' witness, Mr. Gonzalez, went so far as to suggest that because NPR and PBS reported on the murder of George Floyd, they, quote, represent a danger to our physical health as well as to civic health of our body politics. Ms. Mayor, do you think reporting on the murder of George Floyd and highlighting instances of systemic racism is a domestic threat to America?
Thank you, Congresswoman. I believe it's our responsibility to report on all issues of interest to the American public.
Thank you so much. Ms. Kerger, what about you?
I agree. I think it's important for us to report on the important news of the day.
So let's talk about the critical role of public media. During his first term, President Trump's own Department of Homeland Security highlighted the importance of public broadcasting's role in public safety. In 2018, his administration stated, quote, PBS and local public television stations play a crucial role in protecting communities by delivering essential information to individuals and first responders. These benefits are all made possible by public broadcasting stations' unique reach, reliability, and role across America, and are especially vital in rural and underserved areas. Madam Chairwoman, I would ask unanimous consent. I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record the 2018
Without
report.
objection, so ordered.
And Madam Chair, I also seek unanimous consent to enter into the record the 2019 report titled Modernizing the Nation's Public Alert and Warning System from Trump's...
Without objection, so ordered.
In the report, FEMA encouraged, quote, the use of public broadcast capabilities to expand alert, warning, and communication capabilities to fill gaps in rural and underserved areas. Mr. Ullman, what's a more significant domestic threat, reporting the murder of George Floyd or dismantling most of America's emergency communication systems?
Can you please repeat the question for me, Congresswoman?
Which one is more of a threat, reporting the murder of George Floyd or dismantling most of America's emergency communication systems?
Dismantling the emergency systems.
And isn't it true that in Barrow, Alaska is the only, isn't it true that KBRW-AM in Barrow, Alaska is the only broadcast service available in an area of more than 90,000 square miles?
That is correct. It's also the North Slope, where the majority of all the oil production that comes from Alaska takes place.
Thank you so much. And isn't it true that without these stations' broadcast, Americans in rural communities would lack access to life-saving information and public safety alerts?
That is correct.
So in your opinion, would eliminating funding for stations in rural America like WNGH, Channel 18, and the Chairwoman's District hurt Americans?
It would hurt Americans, yes.
In fact, Georgia Public Broadcasting serves as the official distributor of evacuation route information during state-ordered evacuations, and the chairwoman is here advocating to strip their funding. Look, the DOGE agenda isn't about government efficiency. It's about breeding corruption at the expense of the safety of the American people, particularly Americans living in rural or remote parts of the country. They don't care about public safety. They don't care about emergency management, and they don't care about free speech, all of which are harming American people. In fact, I'm going to skip off real quick because they have tried to come for you, Ms. Mayor, and I just want to clarify, you did not work for NPR when those statements were made, did you?
That is correct, Madam
And to
Chair.
be clear, free speech is not about whatever it is that y'all want somebody to say. And the idea that you want to shut down everybody that is not Fox News is bull. We need to stop playing because that's what y'all are doing in here. You don't want to hear the opinions of anybody else. And the Constitution states Congress shall make no law respecting or establishing of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the
gentlewoman's time has expired.
Press.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Ms. Tlaib just went through a series of things that she feels like this is, other than efficiency. And I have a term for what I believe is going on. I think it's just downright cruel. I think that you have people that literally do not have a heart. They're telling us that, oh, no, we're going to run the federal government like a business. Well, let me talk to you about the people that are allegedly running this business, because the federal government ain't a business. But let me clarify. If it was, I don't want it run like the president has run businesses. The president, it's my understanding, has filed bankruptcy 6 times. We don't have that luxury in the United States of America. But even when we start to think about Elon Musk, right now, as it relates to Tesla, the sales are down. As it relates to X, he has never made a profit since he bought X. In fact, the value of X is 75% lower than it has ever been. So if I am going to go look for somebody to run a business, I'm going to look for someone who is going to run one successfully. And before people start screaming and yelling about, well, he's a billionaire. Yeah, when you know the right people and they'll just give you money, then you can become a billionaire too. And maybe one day all of us will have that kind of access. But until then, I want to talk about the fact that Congressional Republicans, again, as it's been stated, they don't care about government efficiency no more than they care about government services and programs that constituents rely on. And just like Elon is hiding from this committee, Republicans are now hiding from their constituents. Under the current Republican budget proposal, 166,000 people in the chairman's district could lose their Medicaid benefits, including more than 70,000 children. The same for the chairwoman of the DOJ subcommittee. Under the current budget proposal, 120,000 people in her district could lose Medicaid benefits, including 75,000 children. This is what efficiency looks like to Republicans, selling out their own constituents to pass tax cuts for their billionaire donors and friends. And rather than taking GAO's recommendations and discussing how Congress can help make federal employees and agencies more efficient, effective, and supported, they're firing probationary federal employees, which again, in my opinion, has led to planes actually falling out of the sky. But nevertheless, which is crazy because no one has been more unproductive than the Republicans on the Oversight Committee. Nevertheless, Mr. Dodaro, of the 38 high-risk areas in GAO's 2025 report, more than half are due in part to staffing or skills gaps, which you've already discussed. In your written testimony to the committee, you stated, quote, "When we have seen progress on high-risk issues, it has typically involved three essential elements: congressional action or oversight, commitment from top leaders at agencies, and active involvement by the Office of Management and Budget. In your opinion, has Congress done enough to ensure the mass indiscriminate purging of federal workforce doesn't, quote, impede the government from cost-effectively serving the public and achieving desired results? Yes or no?"
Well, I talked before about telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Sometimes it's not a yes or no. I think Congress should get more engaged and proactive in this area. I've always encouraged administrations in the past to consult Congress in making some changes. Many of these things deal with laws that Congress passed, and I think Congress needs to get more active.
I agree. We need to do our constitutional duty, which is to conduct oversight. So again, I'm inviting Elon or anybody else that's a member of DOJ to come through and we can have a conversation. In fact, I am not aware of any recommendations that really go beyond just cutting those services that people need. There's not been any talk about cutting any of Elon's contracts, though. Not a one. Not that I'm aware of. Maybe you're aware of it, but you are aware that Elon has been getting money from the federal government for a number of years, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's my understanding that he has not made a recommendation to cut any of his money as we are trying to save money and save this country. At the end of the day, what I am going to say is that we had the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration open 5 investigations on Tesla for complaints of unexpected braking, loss of steering control, and crashes while cars were in self-driving mode. And Tesla tried to block at least 2 rulings from the National Labor Relations Board punishing Elon for tweeting that factory workers would lose stock options if they joined a union. This is a problem. Can you at least tell me that you agree, that you understand what a conflict of interest is, and that Elon
I am well aware of what a conflict of interest is, and we've been asked by the Congress to take a look at this situation, and we will.
Well, I appreciate that. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will yield.
President Biden, in his State of the Union address, talked about how he was bringing people back to work. He didn't do that because he actually wanted to. He did that because the city of D.C. was crumbling without the federal workers coming and supporting the businesses that they previously supported. So I know that my colleagues across the aisle do not like this effort, but when this building becomes 2,000 apartments, those people are going to then spend money in Washington, so it will actually help the economy. With that, I yield back.
I can tell you one thing that is crumbling for the city of D.C. was that continuing resolution that defunded approximately $1 billion from them, but I will focus on today's hearing. The Republicans' recklessness and chaotic approach to reducing the size of government has shown us what we've already known. Concepts of a plan don't work. This is the committee's fourth hearing, and still no one from the so-called Department of Government Efficiency has testified before this committee about their plans to break the federal government, because as it turns out, breaking the federal government doesn't just hurt people you don't like. It's not just going to be Democrats who miss out on Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, or only Democratic veterans who'll miss out on their VA benefits. Their approach will negatively impact all Americans. So it's unfortunate that Republicans have taken a seemingly bipartisan issue and included it as part of their scam to subsidize tax giveaway for billionaires. They haven't proposed anything that will improve the efficiency of the government. Instead, they have put the country on a path to a recession and implemented the largest tax increase on Americans in decades through Trump's tariffs. This hearing is their latest attempt to try to convince the American people that dismantling public-facing agencies will somehow improve government efficiency. Let me tell you, it won't. There's nothing efficient about terminating leases for IRS taxpayer assistance centers during tax season, nor dismantling farmers' support offices in rural communities while farmers are trying to survive Trump's tariffs. And just like their trade policy, there isn't any logic or strategy behind the Trump administration's reductions in force or accelerated disposal of federally owned property. It has been discussed that managing federal property has been on GAO's high-risk list for more than 2 decades. Currently, GAO has almost 60 recommendations that the administration could fully implement, but decided to ignore. And I'm going to veer off for 2 seconds because all I kept hearing was fire. Fire, fire, fire is what I heard. And as I heard fire, it seems like we are talking about an administration that has been hell-bent on firing government workers. They are hell-bent on engaging in fire sales of our government buildings. And while we are at it, they are lighting the Social Security on fire, Medicaid on fire, Medicare on fire, 401ks on fire, Department of Education on fire. And instead, what we need to light on fire are Trump's tariffs. In fact, we could probably go a little bit further and fire this incompetent administration. But if we are going to talk about efficiency and worry about some solar paneled whatevers, let's talk about the fact that as of March 30th, Trump's golfing has cost us approximately $26 million. And the last time I checked, we're not getting anything in return for that. So I will get back on my remarks, but I just wanted to point out that maybe we need to talk about the president and his golfing habits. In fact, he decided that he was going to golf as the markets were tanking. He decided he was going to golf instead of receiving 4 heroes who died serving this country. He has decided that he wanted to play games while the rest of us are really trying to make sure that we can serve the American people. So, Mr. Maroney, you were quoted in the New York Times article dated March 17th, stating that it is important for officials to have a plan to generate the most savings and that, quote, all of these moving parts point to the need for some deliberate planning. Did the administration consult with GAO regarding their plans to dispose of hundreds of federally owned buildings?
No.
In your testimony, you highlight that one of the core issues associated with managing federal property is the lack of reliable data to support decision-making. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would reducing GSA's workforce by 50% improve data gathering and analysis?
I cannot say they're
That's
not
perfectly
perfect.
fine. We know that we need experts and not idiots, but Mr. Kendall, we will move on. In your written testimony, you state some of the actions of this administration suggest that the administration is not following a strategy designed to save taxpayer money and that the administration seems to ignore agency's mission integrity. Why do you think that?
In the list
You got
of
20 seconds. But
in the
I'm
list
giving
of
it to you.
projects, there were a couple score Social Security offices, IRS, taxpayer service offices, which those agencies, those end user agencies wanted, and yet the administration is canceling those leases. So it does imperil mission accomplishment.
Thank you so much. Oh, you're back.
I actually just wanted to say that I agree. Something that I very rarely have an opportunity to do on this committee. And I actually want to applaud the Congressman Turner, for laying this out in a very plain way that is not about partisanship, that is simply about right versus wrong. And I think as we go through reconciliation as a whole, we should be looking at what is right, and it should not be about what somebody told us we had to do. It should be about listening to our constituents and doing what is fair and just. I think that that is who we are supposed to be in the House. We are supposed to look after the people that elected us and just do right by Americans. So honestly, because I very rarely get an opportunity to agree with someone from across the aisle in this committee, I just wanted to say that I absolutely agree. And it's not just agreeing, I agree for the same reasons. A lot of times when you see no votes on the floor, sometimes it's for completely different reasons. But this is about fairness and about doing what's right for people. And I think that we all on this committee should take a step back. And as we go through this budget process, we should absolutely think about what is right to do for the people. So thank you so much, Congressman Turner, for eloquently laying this out. And I will yield.